A La Nina update and an active weather pattern to bring more heavy rain and flash flooding to the deep south, and an active tropical weather system could be on the way toward the United States as we move into early September, guys. So definitely stick with me. If you guys are new to the channel, do subscribe down below. We get all your weather content here on this weather channel. This is Weather on the Go, and I hope everybody's having a great morning out there. Welcome back to another Weather on the Go weather forecast. We are seeing some. This is the La Nina update here a little bit. Seeing some La Nina conditions across portions of the equatorial Pacific continuing to strengthen over the last couple of days, and we're actually firmly in a moderate La Nina right now. You can see that across the equatorial Pacific with those cooler water anomalies there showing up. But to the north of there, we got some warmer sea surface temperatures north of Hawaii, especially northeast of Hawaii as well, into the eastern Pacific. And I wanted to kind of clear some things up with you guys. There's a lot of people asking, well, how come we're seeing wetter conditions across the southern United States and drier conditions across the northern United States, kind of an El Nino pattern when we're in a La Nina? Well, there is a couple things to that, and I do want to clear this up. We actually, to the north of Hawaii, if you guys remember the past several months, we've actually had a warmer blob of sea surface temperatures. We still do. But the past several days, the past 7 days to be exact, we've had, cooler anomalies start to show up north of Hawaii and south of the Aleutian Islands. And that actually forces a stronger trough across the Aleutian Islands with kind of some ridging building across British Columbia, southwestern Canada, into the west coast of the United States. And then another trough kind of bringing more of those cooler anomalies and also that active jet stream across much of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and into portions there of the deep south the last several days. So that's kind of what we're seeing, and that's why we're seeing kind of El Nino conditions in a La Nina. But this won't last forever. I do think things will change as we get towards early September. So let's look at what we're seeing out there now. We got kind of a broad west-northwesterly flow across much of the contiguous United States. A little kind of slight trough or kind of upper level low feature here across the Pacific Northwest, but generally west-northwest flow across the United States. We do have a little bit of a ridge across the western United States, bringing some of that heat out there. Some cooler anomalies across New England and the Great Lakes with kind of an influence here from that stronger trough all the way up into portions of eastern Canada. And like I said, we do have that trough across the Aleutian Islands, and that's why we're seeing those cooler anomalies and kind of that, El Nino pattern in a La Nina right now, but that won't last. We will kind of move a little bit closer toward La Nina conditions as we get towards the end here of August into early September. But really, as we head into tomorrow, we're going to see more zonal flow as we get into your Thursday with kind of a Pacific origin of air moving off the eastern Pacific into the United States with kind of west to east flow in the jet stream across these areas. Looking at your temperatures out there this afternoon, kind of a typical summer day across much of the contiguous United States. Low to mid 90s across the central plains there from Kansas into Nebraska and the front range there of the Rockies. To the west where we have that ridging setting up across portions of Washington State, Oregon State, Idaho, down through Nevada and California. Widespread 90s, if not 100s there as we head into this afternoon. As we head into tomorrow, much of the same. Some cooler temperatures showing up across the upper Midwest and the northern Great Lakes, bringing some daytime highs up there into the middle and upper 70s. Some summer heat, kind of typical summer heat with low to mid 90s across portions there in the Missouri Valley, the central and southern plains. Again, that heat will stick around across the west coast as we move into tomorrow afternoon. Looking here across these areas to the south, we still have those flood watches being, continuing actually into portions there of southeastern Texas, much of Louisiana, into central Mississippi, including Jackson, Mississippi, back toward Alexandria, Louisiana, and far southeast Texas there, just north and east of the Houston area, with those flood watches, with the potential for some ongoing flash flooding or even more flash flooding as we kind of move through the day today. So looking at this, the reflectivity, what the radar could look like later on here this morning, we got some widespread heavy rainfall from central Mississippi into northeastern Louisiana, getting back into southeastern Texas as we head through the morning hours. But as we move into the afternoon, much of these same areas will be getting drenched with some very heavy rainfall. Some torrential rainfall is definitely likely across the Jackson, Mississippi area, down into southern Mississippi, even down toward New Orleans. We could be seeing some heavier downpours from time to time down there as we head through the afternoon, getting back toward Houston, Corpus Christi. A couple of these areas will be seeing some heavy rainfall this afternoon. That will continue into the evening hours, although we do start to see a little bit of that pushing a little farther east toward Alabama and kind of waning in coverage and intensity as it does so, as we kind of lose some of the lower level dynamics as we head into the evening hours across this area. But looking at the next 24 hours, some widespread heavy rainfall across Louisiana, coastal Texas, getting up into portions of south central Mississippi, western and southwestern portions of Alabama here. Widespread rainfall in the blue shaded colors there of around an inch to inch and a half. Purpled in those red shaded colors across especially central Mississippi toward the Jackson area, getting back over there towards, Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, maybe just south and west of there. 2 to 4 inches of rain cannot be ruled out here in the next 24 hours, and that certainly could cause some flash flooding. That's why the Weather Prediction Center did hoist a slight risk of flash flooding and excessive rainfall across much of East Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, into southwestern Alabama as we head through the next 24 hours as well. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. But as we move forward toward the end of the week here on your Friday, we're seeing still that zonal flow for the most part across the United States with that Pacific origin air moving off of the eastern Pacific. And we'll continue to see that as we get into the weekend. Although, as we move into Saturday, we'll start to see kind of a trough start to develop across the Pacific Northwest. And that will kind of alter the jet stream a little bit, getting a little bit more wavy in the jet stream. And that means more energy is going to be provided to us as we get through the weekend. So let's kind of break this down here on your Saturday, August 27th. We do have a very strong trough starting to develop across the Aleutian Islands, like I was mentioning earlier on in the video, and that will actually continue to strengthen a little bit more as we get toward late weekend time frame for your Sunday, August 28th, and likely even beyond into early next week. A very powerful jet stream with that, rounding the base of this trough across portions of the northeastern Pacific and the Aleutian Islands as we head into Sunday. And what this will do is bring that ridge a little farther to the east toward the Central Plains as we get into early next week, which will provide the threat for this trough here in the Pacific Northwest and a cold front to bring potentially some severe weather and more heavy rainfall from Texas to the upper Midwest as we move into early next week. And speaking of early next week, from Monday the 29th going all the way to the first couple of days here in September, we're seeing that ridge kind of crashing over top of this trough across portions of Texas and the deep south here as we move into the first couple of days of September, with above normal temperatures favored in these red shaded areas and pink shaded areas across much of the west, the northern plains, the upper Midwest, all the way across New England and the East Coast, while we have, cooler than normal temperatures across portions of Texas, southeastern New Mexico, into southern Oklahoma as we move through the first couple of days there in September. We are going to see a wet pattern continue across the deep south. Again, not really a La Nina pattern, but again, we're seeing some beneficial rains across Texas into southern Oklahoma with well above average precipitation expected at least through the first couple of days there of September. And with that ridge kind of crashing over top of this trough, we're actually going to see below normal precipitation favored across the upper Midwest and the Rockies as we move into the first couple of days of September as well. So let's kind of time this out a little bit for you guys, kind of at the few days out. So we'll kind of get not too precise with this, but we'll show you what we could see as we get into early next week. We got a cold front moving through here. The timing of the cold front will be key to see if we have any marginal or slight risk days or anything like that for severe weather. But definitely some heavy rainfall setting up across portions there, the western Ohio Valley, all the way down with this cold front to North Texas. More beneficial rain as you head to your Monday. That continues into Tuesday, maybe kind of an organized MCS or mesoscale convective system, potentially dropping southeast across the Red River there as we head into Tuesday. And that continues even into Wednesday with more heavy rain, potentially getting all the way down here into south central Texas and the deep south once again as we get into the middle of next week, which would actually mark the end of August. So we'll continue to watch that, and that will eat away at the drought. This is the drought monitor from this past Thursday. The new drought monitor does come out tomorrow, and I'm interested to see how much improvement we've seen across North Texas and portions here of Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. With all this heavy rainfall, I do expect some significant drought improvements across this area. That is for sure. So we'll have to wait and see for tomorrow. But looking a little bit farther out, going all the way through September 6th, we still have this pattern really intact all the way through the first really week of September. with that trough kind of sticking down to the south across Texas, New Mexico, and the deep south, with that ridge kind of crashing over top of that trough again across much of the northwestern and western United States, and even the eastern United States as well, with above normal temperatures going through that first week there in September. And again, across the deep south, across from Texas, New Mexico, eastward towards the southeast there and the Gulf Coast, we're going to see above normal precipitation, a little bit of above normal precipitation with a couple of troughs sneaking in there to the Pacific Northwest, especially across Washington State. Other than that, we're going to see, drier than normal conditions across most of the northern and northeastern United States, from New England, the Great Lakes, the Midwest, all the way back into the inner Mountain West as we head into that first week there in September. Turning your attention to the active tropics, guys, things are really turning very active across the tropics here the last couple of days. We do have a couple of lower end probabilities of systems developing in the Caribbean and the Southern Atlantic Basin. The National Hurricane Center gives these two areas of interest a 20% chance of development in the next 2 to 5 days. Right now, it's a low chance, but I do think I'm actually eyeing up this area here in the Caribbean near the Windward Islands, moving westward across the open waters mainly of the Caribbean. This could be the system that we'll really have to watch for the United States, not only because it looks closer, but also because it actually, in some of the global forecast guidance, has actually been a little more robust, especially with the GFS, with a stronger potentially hurricane getting very close to the United States. So we'll continue to watch that. Again, it's not a slam dunk by any means, but definitely want to kind of put this on your radar that, yeah, the tropical season, guys, is really ramping up and it's getting closer than you think. We're going to be getting close to the U.S. here pretty soon in the next week or two, so definitely want to watch that. Looking at these on the satellite imagery here, we got a more robust system coming off of Africa now with more convection organizing. This system down the road could be something to watch, especially since it may have more residence time over the Atlantic Ocean. But we're really still watching this area of spin across, just to the east of the Windward Islands, pushing across into the, the eastern Caribbean over the next few days. And this will be the area of interest that the National Hurricane Center is watching, that we could be seeing some development into potentially a depression or a tropical storm through the next few days. So we'll continue to watch that. And looking kind of at the ensemble guidance to the GFS, this is the GEFS, and really kind of painting the picture very well, I do think, with that tropical system potentially developing there in the central Caribbean, potentially moving up towards the southern Gulf. So we'll continue to watch that. And also a more robust system, probably a stronger system getting into portions there of the southern Atlantic Basin, like I said, with more residence time over the warmer waters and less shear off to the east. We're definitely going to be seeing a more robust system by then. And this actually has this system potentially getting into either the eastern Gulf or the western Atlantic. So we'll continue to watch this. Again, not a done deal by any means of a system really actually developing and producing a hurricane. But again, the track is very key with this. It could go into the eastern Gulf. It could go into the western Atlantic, or really we might not even see a storm at all. So we'll continue to watch this, guys, through the next few days. But I do think another storm is going to be behind that toward the southern Atlantic Basin, as well as we get towards the early September timeframe, moving toward the Windward Islands slowly, potentially in that first week in September. And looking at this with kind of a wind shear perspective, hurricanes don't like wind shear. Wind shear it rips apart a hurricane very easily, and we're not seeing that. Where you see the blue shading colors here across that more robust system coming off of Africa, that's actually less wind shear. So it has more of a favorable environment for development, even though it's a 20% chance now. The system across portions here of the Caribbean has some wind shear, but not a lot. So, I mean, this even has chance to develop as well. But as this moves up either into the eastern Gulf or the western Atlantic, if it develops at all, we'll actually kind of encounter more wind shear. So this could be kind of on a weakening trend if it gets toward the U.S. That is a potential. I'm more worried, again, about that system there in the Caribbean because it's closer to the United States, but that system behind it that could develop also has a 20% chance, and that one could also provide the threat for a bigger system as well as we get into that first or second week in September, because there's less wind shear, because it has more residence time over the southern Atlantic Basin, and just because we're in an active La Nina phase, we have warmer sea surface temperatures. All of these things are lining up for these systems to really start to produce more impacts across these areas. And looking at the Atlantic hurricane season and tropical storm season as well, we're getting really close toward the peak season, guys. We're getting into early September here in the next few days, and really that's kind of climatologically the first and second week in September is the busiest time of year on climatologically. across the Atlantic Basin, really in the Caribbean and Gulf as well. So that will be something to watch. And looking at this for September, kind of moving into next month, guys, the number of named storms really increases across much of the southern Atlantic Basin and the western Atlantic as well toward the United States in September. And the number of named hurricanes are actually across the western Atlantic right near the coast there. So again, September is pretty active climatologically, getting closer to the United States. So that is something to watch. I do want you guys to watch this if you live in Florida all the way to Maine across the entire East Coast for these two systems here through the next couple of weeks, because I do think things will really start to get active. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Definitely appreciate it as always. Remember to like it down below and give it a thumbs up like I said, and also leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. I'll get to those later on today. And guys, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're getting ever closer to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you to all the new subscribers out there. I definitely appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Have a great Wednesday, and I'll see you all in the next video.